You've watched it happen, probably recently. Someone makes a claim. It's wrong. And not in a murky, debatable way. It's flatly, demonstrably wrong, and the evidence is sitting right there in front of everyone. You wait for the obvious thing to happen. You wait for them to look at the evidence, register it, and adjust. They don't. They dig in. They get louder. They find a reason the evidence doesn't count, or the source is biased, or you're missing the real point. The harder you push the facts, the harder they hold the line. And you walk away genuinely baffled, wondering how a person can look directly at proof and somehow believe their wrong thing even more strongly than before. Here is what you need to understand. They are not being stupid. They are not even, in most cases, being dishonest. What you just watched is one of the most reliable and well-documented features of the human mind, doing exactly what it evolved to do. And before this feels too comfortable, before you settle into thinking about that one person in your life who does this, you should know something. The exact same machinery is running in you. You just never get to see it from the outside. This video is about why the human brain treats being wrong as a threat to survive rather than a problem to solve, and why the smartest people in the room are often the worst at it. In 1957, a psychologist named Leon Festinger gave a name to the engine underneath all of this. He called it cognitive dissonance. The idea is simple to state and enormous in its consequences. When you hold two things in your mind that contradict each other, a belief and a fact that disproves it, you experience genuine psychological discomfort. Not a metaphor for discomfort. Actual mental distress that the brain treats as something to be resolved, the same way hunger is something to be resolved. And here is the part that matters. There are two ways to make that discomfort go away. You can change the belief to match the new fact, or you can change your interpretation of the fact to protect the belief. Both of them end the discomfort equally well, and the second one is almost always easier. Festinger didn't discover this in a lab with abstract puzzles. He discovered it by embedding researchers inside a doomsday cult. The group believed a flood would end the world on a specific date, and that a flying saucer would rescue the true believers beforehand. Festinger wanted to know what would happen when the date came, and nothing happened. What happened was the opposite of what logic would predict. When the prophecy failed, when the world conspicuously did not end, the believers did not abandon their faith. Many of them believed harder. The group decided their devotion had saved the world, and they went from quiet conviction to aggressively recruiting new members. The disconfirmation didn't weaken the belief. It supercharged it. That is the template for everything that follows. The bigger the contradiction, the bigger the threat, and the harder the mind works to neutralize it. Which raises the obvious question. Why would evolution build a brain that does this? Why would being wrong feel like danger? In 2016, neuroscientists at the University of Southern California put people in a brain scanner and did something simple. They challenged their political beliefs with counter-evidence and watched what lit up. What they found explains almost everything. When a person's strongly held beliefs were challenged, the brain activity that surged was not in the regions associated with calm reasoning. It was in the amygdala and the insular cortex. The amygdala is the structure most associated with perceiving threat and danger, the thing that fires when you're cornered or under attack. The insula processes feelings coming from inside the body. In other words, the brain was responding to an attack on a belief using the same circuitry it uses to respond to a physical threat. To your nervous system, challenging a deeply held belief and threatening your physical safety look remarkably similar. This is the missing piece most people never grasp about the person doubling down in front of them. They think they're in a debate about facts. The other person's brain thinks it's in a fight for survival. You're calmly presenting evidence. Their amygdala is treating you like a predator. The same study found that the brain regions tied to personal identity, the network involved in thinking about who you are, also activated when beliefs were challenged. And this is the key that unlocks the whole thing. For most people, certain beliefs are not stored as opinions they happen to hold. They are stored as parts of the self. The belief and the identity have fused, so an attack on the belief is processed accurately as an attack on the person. When you understand that, doubling down stops looking irrational. If admitting you were wrong feels neurologically like admitting you are defective as a person, then defending the wrong position isn't stubbornness, it's self-defense, and almost nobody can tell the difference from the inside. Here is the finding that should genuinely disturb you, because it dismantles the obvious solution. The obvious solution is intelligence. Surely smarter, more educated, more analytical people are better at updating their beliefs. They understand evidence. They can follow an argument. They should be the ones who say, fair enough, I was wrong. The research points the other way. There's a phenomenon psychologists call motivated reasoning, and the short version is this. People do not use their intelligence to find the truth. They use it to defend the conclusion they already want. And the more cognitive horsepower you have, the better you are at it. A smarter person isn't more likely to abandon a wrong belief. They're more likely to construct a sophisticated, internally consistent, genuinely impressive argument for why they were right all along. Their intelligence doesn't serve the truth. It serves the defense. They can find the flaw in your study, the alternative explanation, the reason the data doesn't apply here, faster and more convincingly than anyone else in the room. You've probably experienced this without naming it. The most exhausting person to argue with is not the fool. The fool runs out of material. The exhausting one is the brilliant person defending an indefensible position, because every counterpoint you raise gets dismantled by a mind that is working at full capacity in service of not changing. And the deeper trap is that this feels, from the inside, exactly like thinking. The person constructing elaborate defenses of their wrong belief experiences themselves as being rational. They're weighing arguments. They're considering evidence. It has all the texture of careful reasoning. It's just that the conclusion was fixed before the reasoning started, and the entire apparatus is pointed at protecting it. This is why being wrong is so hard to catch in yourself. Your own motivated reasoning doesn't announce itself as bias. It announces itself as being right. So let's flip this around, because so far this has been easy. So far it's been about other people, the cult members, the guy who won't back down, that brilliant friend who argues you into the ground. But everything I just described, you've got all of it too. The discomfort, the threat response, the way beliefs get tangled up with who you are, the reasoning that only ever defends what you already think. None of it is some flaw that only certain people have. It's just standard human wiring, and it's running in you right now, quietly, without you noticing. Think about the last time you really changed your mind about something that mattered. Something to do with your politics, your relationships, how you see yourself. Not, oh, I had a fact wrong. A real one. For most people, that's hard to even come up with. And that's the tell. It's not that you've been right this whole time. It's that every time you were wrong, the same machinery quietly kicked in, and you explained it away, defended yourself, and moved on, without it ever once feeling like being wrong. You see everyone else digging in from the outside, where it looks obvious and honestly a little pathetic. But you only ever feel your own from the inside, where it doesn't feel like digging in at all. It feels like being clear-headed. It feels like just knowing what you know. There's no clean fix for this, and anybody who says there is one is just your own motivated reasoning wearing a different outfit. What actually helps is smaller and harder than a fix. It's catching the feeling, that hot defensive flush when someone pushes on something you believe, that moment where you're already loading up your comeback before they've even stopped talking. That's not the feeling of being right. That's your brain treating an idea like a threat. And it feels exactly the same, whether you're right or dead wrong. That's the whole problem. The people who double down when they're proven wrong aren't some other type of person. They're a mirror you're just not supposed to recognize. And the fact that you're probably still thinking about somebody else right now instead of yourself, that's the whole thing, working perfectly. One more time.